Welcome back to the channel. Hey, I know it's kind of early, but I think I pretty much know what I'm thinking about the market now. So welcome back. I know last week we closed the week and we were bearish Friday. We were bearish. And the reason that we were bearish is because most elements of the chart were pointing towards a bearish outcome. But I did say that there was one scenario where I would turn inherently bullish in the short term. And it turns out that with that emergency Fed meeting came our short-term bullish scenario, which is a breakout of this. I'm seeing this as a clean break of this broadening descending wedge, as well as this potential falling wedge that could have been developing here. And we're going to talk about a few scenarios where we could go back bearish in the short term, like big time bearish. But overall, we'll talk about our bullish scenario, which is kind of where we're leaning at the moment, and I'll explain why. So let's just zoom in here on the 15-minute time frame and see what happens. So you have in the primary downtrend that I want you to pay attention to, I'm going to change the color of this because we have a red one up above. The primary downtrend to pay attention to is this teal one that is helping form this potential falling wedge that we had, right? That right now looks like is not going to play out. The reason that this is so important is because you've now broken out of this with a fair amount of volume and have continued upward. Now, the volume has gotten really weak towards the end of the session here, and you're starting to form what could end up looking like a rising wedge when it's done. And really, it could be forming out here to close. So don't be surprised if in after hours, the overnight trading session for futures, if you see a break back down here, okay? So maybe it looks something like this. If you continue within this wedge, you break back down in this manner. Let me change the color of this. And to be honest with you, it's actually mostly what I'm expecting. I am expecting that over the course of the next day or so, you do have a pullback, okay? And let's get a Fibonacci up here to try and get a little bit more accurate on where that level could happen. And what time frame. And I mean, this actually looks like it wants to consolidate its way down here, down to this 36.14 level. Makes a lot of sense as well if you're looking at it from a liquidity standpoint for this, what I am calling now a localized accumulation that occurred down here. We were looking for a breakdown of this trading range, but instead you got that break up, and so that turns this move here into accumulation, with this being like a terminal shakeout slash spring that happened in the after hours on October 2nd. Oh, that was actually the opening of the futures session, which is really funny. And last night we were tweeting saying, look, I'm expecting futures to actually, by the time it comes, by the time you get to open, it should be green. And what we were expecting was a rejection at this teal downtrend here, which you ultimately didn't get. You broke right through. So then what occurs? So zooming out now, the implications of this, to me, begin to look like what has occurred here is that you've had an accumulation, with this being a phase B distribution whenever you had that SPY rally to $430 or so. And now this almost starts to look like it could be a local spring action. But we have to see a few things play out, right? So if you whenever you come back down here after you break out of this rising wedge, if you break down back into these downtrends that we have, the dotted one or the teal one, that's very bearish, okay? You're going to probably test this new support trend that could be developing here. We'll change the color of it to hot pink perhaps, and I'll make it nice and bold so you know which one I'm talking about there, right? But this actually I think this might have been some action that we saw before on AMC on the channel. I can't really remember exactly when it occurred, though. It might have actually been on Twitter before I started doing YouTube. But again, so what I'm expecting is you pull back here, you retest the level that we talked about earlier on the fib. So let's zoom back in there. And again, this is not me saying that the bull market is on and there's no more bearish price action to be had or something. That's not what I'm saying. I'll explain in a second. Yeah, so probably down to like this 3,600-ish level. I'm expecting that sort of move back down. on this, but overall, if you find support there, especially on a retest of these downtrends, you're pretty bullish over the course of like the macro. And what that is going to start to look like is that now this becomes accumulation. I know we're bouncing around a little bit. Sorry about that. You come down here, you test, maybe you bounce around a little bit, and then ultimately you will be coming up to test this midline that we've been watching for a few months. And that this then, let me get my little tool here. Where is it? How's your day going? I don't want there to be dead air on the video. Okay. This little curve tool. This now starts to look like accumulation if this plays out. Again, if you break back down into the rising wedge / the descending broadening wedge, I'm adjusting my behavior based on that, okay? If you see that break back down below. Oh, and the other thing that I want to say is you're going to see a lot of people on FinTwit, a lot of people on YouTube, et cetera, saying, oh, well, there's no volume on this move. But the truth is that you don't really need volume on this move. The move that you need volume on, it would be a break above this 3750 liquidity zone, okay? So that bold, we'll change the color of it. Bold, I know we're turning into a rainbow here. Let me remove some things. That bold orange line, okay? That is where you're going to need volume to come in because that would be a break of the accumulation range, okay? That break of that range. Now, if you break this range, okay? So we break down here like we said, and then maybe you just, let's just say you bounce right off, which is totally possible. When you break above here, 30, and you go to 3,800 or something, when you come back and test, at some point here, you need to see volume on an upswing, okay? So probably through it initially, you're going to want to see a big volume spike for bulls. You come back down, volume's got to cool off, and then once you make that attempt to make new highs again, that's when you need the volume to step in. You don't need volume down here when you're still within this range. What's happening is they're testing to see if institutions are testing to see if retail is buying this, okay? And retail is probably buying it. If we know retail, right now, what retail is doing is they're closing puts because they got burned, and they're opening calls because they're chasing, right? That is what happens when you break a trend like this. That's why it's so important to have these, technical lines and indicators here, because I told you guys, I said, I'm bearish, and I was wrong, right? My conviction was bearish. But when the market opened and this thing went through those downtrends, came back, retested, and went off again, I was like, I'm bullish. Like, short term, you have to be bullish, because it broke the downtrend. And again, this is all technical. This has not, the fundamentals, whatever. I don't even know what the Fed said. Don't even know. But the technicals tell the story here, right? I told you guys, most likely you're going to have a swoop up in futures. If you follow me on Twitter, most likely you'll have a swoop up. I was thinking that it was going to come up here, test this downtrend by the time that market opened, and then the Fed would crash. Fed would push the price back down. But guess what? They didn't. They pressed the price through that downtrend, and you see this explosive move. None of this is an accident. It's all technical. So if you understand technicals and you have a plan going into this, and you go, hey, I'm bearish, okay? My bias is bearish, but I could be bullish if this happened in the manner that I was describing. You're at least going to protect yourself against loss, right? You have to be able to manage your risk and protect yourself against loss and say, look, I'm in puts. I open puts at open, right? Because you're testing that downtrend. If it breaks the downtrend, get out of the way. That doesn't mean buy calls, turn bullish. What it means is protect yourself. Protect yourself against risk. That's not even a theta play, right? The biggest thing with options, I see everybody trading options on Twitter. The biggest thing with options is you get thetaed out of your position. And maybe you were right on the direction, but you weren't right on the timing. Yeah, this thing's just crushing downtrends, guys. It's just going to rally. It's going to rally. Shout out to KO Fibonacci. Oh, and also, I didn't watch the videos, but I saw the YouTube titles. I know that Jen Colado was being bullish. So shout these guys out, okay? So at KO Fibonacci on Twitter and at Jen Colado. Okay, you go check those guys out, okay? Because they have different methodology than I do, but they were actually bullish before this trend line break. So maybe go check them out, see what they the way that they came up with their solution. So anyway, back to what we were saying. Let me go see if this rising wedge is even valid anymore, or if they're just gonna friggin' send this thing like a rocket up to 37.50. They could. No, I think actually this still looks wedgy. Let me zoom in. These lines are a little too thick. A little too thick there, boy. Down to 1 minute. Also, I talked a little bit too much about like trading methodology. I don't want to talk about trading on here. I want to talk about analysis. I feel like analysis is it's better to teach analysis than trading, because so many people are trying to teach trading, like or sell trading. I guess they sell their discords or whatever. But I would rather go the educational route with analysis. You find your way that you like to analyze charts, and then you can come to your own trading conclusions as a result of that. And analysis isn't everything. I think that it plays a key role, and it's probably the most important single thing for the market is technical analysis, as far as understanding price action, especially on a day-to-day basis. But I just think that, you know, if you understand analysis, you can come up with your own trading strategy. So I want to stay away from talking about trading as much. But anyway, yeah, so I still think that this is a wedge. I still think that this will play out like a rising wedge. It also has that dying volume towards the end, which is very good indication that this is a valid rising wedge. It's not fully valid until you do have the break down below and you create new lows. But I do feel like in futures, like basically, look, SPY is up 3% today. That is a crazy price rally. Probably people FOMOing in as a result of the fundamental news are going to get faded out tomorrow. Okay, so you're going to have this long, kind of drawn out bullshit kind of, price getting pulled down. So anyway, that's pretty much the video. That's what I wanted to say today. That's pretty much how I'm seeing the market at the moment. Again, go follow these guys on Twitter that I shouted out here. And yeah, if you break back down below into this falling wedge, I am bearish. But if you have volume step in when you make a new high on wherever this thing taps out, actually, you know what? I can give you an even better way. Let's do an inverse Fibonacci on this here. That's what I should have done from the beginning. Oh man, you are deep into this, man. I mean, you're about to go up to 786, but that does 37.13. That does look like a good level for you to get turned around here. But it looks good, guys. I mean, it looks like accumulation. It looks like a good play. Like you'll come back, have a last point of support. Probably at this 36.62. It looks like, and then but you could just get stopped at your golden pocket. This 36.83 doesn't look bad either, as a liquidity zone for you to come back and test. And then you should be going back up here to 37.50 or so. And then once you get past 37.50. The next like real resistance that we'll be watching in a major way is that midline that we've been watching, the macro midline for the downtrend that's happened all year. I'm pretty surprised, if I'm being honest with you, but I mean, we've seen this happen before. This move actually is very reminiscent of this, right? Like you come here. You almost get to that green support trend that's built into this broadening wedge. You don't quite touch it. You come back up to the midline, and then you come down and you spike down through here. Perhaps that's something to be watching for, is if you see some sort of distribution action occur, like you did here, right? Maybe it occurs somewhere around here. And then you could look for that bigger spike down, which would be a big nasty one. But so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Be looking for 37.50 on the upside. See how you react there. You should get a little bit of a pullback once you get over there. Perhaps probably in the next week or so. And then from there, you should bounce right up to your, unless you just kind of consolidate. I guess you could do that. You could consolidate. Actually, it would look pretty good. I keep on trying to end the video, and I'm not doing a good job of doing that right now. But look, we'll just copy this here. I know you guys love bars patterns, so I gotta hook you up with a bars pattern. But just like I'm not saying that this is exactly what I'm expecting. I'm just saying that like this is the type of move that you could see play out in these circumstances. It kind of looks appropriate, like this, and we'll see where we go from there. That's kind of what it looks like to me. If you break out of the midline, though, could continue back up to that downtrend, and I think that would really send retail for a surprise. But we'll see. We'll see when we get there. All right, I'm really ending the video this time. What's in your head? In your head, zombie, zombie, zombie.